I want to bring to your attention another thought experiment, if I can. This has to do with the philosophy of mind and the discussion between physicalism and dualism. Physicalism is the argument that everything that is this, your body and your brain and all that stuff, is all reducible to just meat. So you're basically walking meat. If you're a physicalist, then you think that we're all just a bunch of walking meat. That there's nothing really. There's no spirit in here. That we're just that we just happen to be sentient beings. But it just happens to be a act of nature or something, whatever. But that when we die, our spirit, or when the body dies, everything about us dies. Physicalists don't believe in a spirit or anything like that. They just believe that all of this is reducible to physical and material things. That is a thing in the philosophy of mind that I disagree with. I disagree with physicalism and materialism. And furthermore, I disagree with behaviorism. But I'm a dualist, which means I think that the body. In the philosophy of mind, I'm a dualist, which means that I believe that there are two components which make up the human body and the human soul. I think, well, there is the human body, which is meat, but without a spirit or a soul, this would not be. This thing that this is meat. All this meat would not be sentient. It would not be at all anything. I think that the only reason I'm talking to you about certain things, the only reason I do all these things, is because there's a spiritual part of me that just happens to be trapped in this meat body. That when I die, my body will decompose, but my soul will not die, but it'll just go to a different place. Not necessarily a spatial temporal place, but a place. So basically, what I want to discuss here is I want to discuss a thought experiment in the philosopher's zombie. A zombie, if you think about it, is, if you've seen Dawn of the Dead or any of those things, any of those horror movies, you notice that or if you've seen Resident Evil, that's a great one. You'll notice that the zombie that is coming for the actual, you'll see that there's a distinction in Resident Evil from the human beings, and the zombies. This is the human beings, which are they're coherent, they're smart, they can try and figure out ways to get out of this, even though if it fails sometimes. They don't want to just do things based on impulse or instinct. They actually rationalize things out, and there's then there's the zombies, which all are doing the same thing. Now, the philosopher's zombie is a thought experiment often used to argue dualism and argue against physicalism, because a zombie is a being which is not sentient. It's a living being, but it is not sentient. It's not aware. It's not conscious. It doesn't have conscious experience like you and I do. It just walks around looking for brains to eat, and if you happen to poke it, it might react, but it might react or do something else. I don't know, but it would not feel that. It would not feel it. And I guess the argument here that dualists will give is that that this whole idea of a being that is just walking in meat, which is not really sentient and doesn't have conscious experience, this is something that's possible, just because just because of the fact that just because of like things like will and stuff. And I kind of want to relate this to Schopenhauer. I don't know if I like the argument very much because I think I really think that that this whole idea of a living human, well, suppose something that is very close to human, which is living and doesn't have conscious experience. For one thing, it's not possible, but it is a good thought experiment. But I don't really. It's basically entertaining a hypothetical, and entertaining hypotheticals can be good and it can be worthless. And entertaining this hypothetical is good to think about, but it's not necessarily a very good argument for physicalism, or I mean, a very good argument for dualism, because. But I guess it is a little bit possible because I'm thinking about Schopenhauer here. Schopenhauer's world is will and an idea. He talks about will and he talks about intellect. He talks about these things. The will being the metaphysical part of the being of the human, which basically is a inherent desire for the things that keep it alive, the things that keep it what it is, which means like sustenance and shelter and water and everything that will keep it alive. It's basically will that causes someone to drink water or to eat food most of the time. And then there's intellect. Intellect is just basically what level of intelligence is the being. And intellect can go from a very little thing like an amoeba or a bacteria and go all the way up to a human. But Schopenhauer says that the will is the exact same regardless of the intellect. And he kind of discusses, why the will is primary and all this stuff. But basically what he's saying here is that in all living beings, there's this will, which is the same in all of them, regardless of what intellect there is. And I think this sort of makes me want to think about a zombie, because the zombie would be would have will, basically, but it would just be a very, very low on the intellect scale, which makes me think it's a little bit possible. I mean, I'm thinking about an animal or even a plant, which is not very. I'm thinking mostly about a plant, such as the Venus flytrap. It's not really a sentient being, I don't think. I don't think that. I don't know. I think it might have feelings to it a little bit, but I don't think the plants are really that sentient. Even though they do deserve some sort of moral standing, but I don't think that they're sentient. If you happen to rip one up or rip one's leaf, it wouldn't feel pain or anything. But I think that, regardless of that, I think that the plants deserve a moral standing in the world. But that's a different issue. But I think it's very possible for something like the Philosopher's Zombie to occur, because this is just basically a being that has a very low intellect but has the same will as everything else does. The will to satisfy their basic needs. But. And I guess it seems to be a argument which, if I was going to hold this argument, I would want to use it to move into a better argument, because it's not the best argument in the world, because all you're saying is that it's possible for there to be walking meat without any intellect, because the intellect or the soul or whatever comes from a different kind of makeup or a different substance. But I guess I'm a dualist, but not because I think that the Philosopher's Zombie is the best argument for it. It's a pretty good argument. It's a great thing to consider, but I don't think it's the best argument that can be had. So I don't know. That's just my discussion. And probably after this video, I'll probably won't have any more until next week. So I'll see you guys next week.